I love Audrey Hepburn. I have done for about a year and a half. So I'd say I've seen all of her iconic films, maybe most of her iconic films, but not her entire filmography. I've read a lot about her in magazines, but I've never read a comprehensive biography. So when I discovered Audrey, a documentary on, well, it's currently available on Now TV, I thought I'd give this a watch and see what I can learn, because I'm not, it's only been a year and a half. I've still got a lot to learn about her life. And I have to say, although the documentary didn't actually teach me anything I didn't already know, it's very well put together and actually really interesting. So even if you know the basics of Audrey Hepburn's life and career, you'll still find it interesting. And I do think it's very well put together with a fantastic use of archive footage. This was released in 2020, directed by Helena Coan, and as you can imagine, it looks at the life and career of Audrey Hepburn. It's about an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes. And it's pretty linear. It goes through her chronology of what it was like growing up. I think maybe the first 10-15 minutes is spent on growing up in the war, and what she did with her dancing career thereafter, and also the complications that led to malnutrition during the war that meant that she would never really succeed as a professional ballet dancer, and how then that led her into films and how she got into Hollywood. And I think I should say as well, I think that's a really good length of time. They had quite a lot of archive footage from her pre-Hollywood dancing days and, shows she did as a chorus girl, and I thought that was very impressive, because I, as somebody who is quite a big fan of Hepburn but haven't explored too much outside of her films, hadn't seen those before, and I thought that was quite exciting. So that's, it set us up for what the rest of the documentary was going to be, and it's just clip after clip after clip, and it's really engaging and very well edited. Once we get into her career, obviously it looks at things like Roman Holiday. We get to see the Oscars and bits of Breakfast at Tiffany's. Obviously, it spent more time on certain films than it did the others, and as soon as we get to things like Funny Face and starts talking about her relationship with Givenchy, and it does kind of become more about her fashion than her talents as an actor, which is kind of to be expected. This isn't claiming to be, a documentary that will look into the mind of Audrey Hepburn. It is looking at her career as an icon. And obviously the fashion is very heavily associated with Audrey as an icon. So it does look a lot into the costumes and things, but it doesn't go into too much detail. It's not, picking every thread apart and analysing the outfits, but it is saying how important they were and how iconic they were. And we see quite a lot of photos and a few video clips of how well Hepburn held herself in all of the different outfits, and it kind of analyses a little bit why the outfits worked so well on her and how she was able to present them in their best way. It definitely spent more time analysing Hepburn as the fashion icon than it did the actress, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I just would have liked a little bit more about her life as an actress. She did talk about Fred Astaire, and how she was quite anxious to be dancing with Fred Astaire. And that's something that I thought was amazing. This is actually quite largely narrated by Hepburn, which I'm sure you're thinking doesn't make any sense. She was no longer with us at this point, but she does a lot of voiceover narration for this, and I don't know where they got the clips from. I know at least one of them, she was talking in an interview and then the clip faded into something else, but the narration, her voice continued. So I assume that most of the narration in this is taken from various interviews over the years, but it's very, very well put together. And, if you hadn't put a date on this, you could quite easily have said that this had been released towards the end of her life and she was narrating the whole thing from scratch. Very smoothly done. The transitions are brilliant. It does look at her mental health in a little way. It talks about how she was quite shy and reserved, not your typical Hollywood actress, and particularly how she felt quite, disheartened when her vocals were dubbed in My Fair Lady. Now, I'll be honest, I don't know a single person who's commented either on YouTube or in real life about her vocals in My Fair Lady who doesn't like it. Like, I don't know what it is, but there was absolutely nothing wrong with her vocals in My Fair Lady, if you hear the raw footage. So, I don't know why they made that decision. I think it was a pretty bad decision, but that's by the by. And then, of course, it goes through her life, looks at the work she did for UNICEF and how she lived quite a secluded life. We get to hear from her son. Her son is voiceover work only. Her granddaughter we actually have pieced to cameras with. There are some people who are sharing their opinions who were never really properly introduced, and I don't really know who they are. And, I mean, they might have been introduced once, but it was never really recapped. So that was a little bit irritating. And their opinions obviously didn't matter to me because I don't know who they are. But sometimes, some of the people, family, friends and things, obviously their input's really interesting. And it takes us through, basically, birth to the end. And it's beautifully done. It's really, really well edited, really well presented. I was very impressed with the fact that they managed to persuade Hepburn, that's not the right word I'm looking for, to manipulate the interview footage to enable Hepburn to actually narrate her own story. You could argue that she obviously never agreed to that, so they shouldn't have done, but that's, I don't think that that's a problem at all. The only thing that I found really annoying was that there were frequent clips of a ballet dancer, very talented ballet dancer, when they were talking about Hepburn's ballet career. They had some footage, but they just kept using this clip of a ballet dancer that was clearly shot for this production. And they used that far too frequently. Like, I don't care. Once, fine, but I want to see Hepburn. But other than that, it's actually really, really beautiful. As I said, I didn't really learn anything. There might have been one or two little things that I picked up along the way, but I didn't learn anything new about her life, her history, her background, anything like that. So if you're a beginner to Hepburn's work, I think it's good to watch it. I don't think it will spoil any of the more popular films. It doesn't go into the details about the endings or anything. And I think it is a really nice overview. I think it really successfully captures Hepburn as an individual and an icon within an hour and 40 minutes. It's absolutely worth watching.